But when we were there in the other environment, all of a sudden I needed to change, needed to improve, because yeah, there was nothing else to do. Hello and welcome to our next call for Lean by Nature. We're talking about the improvement phase today. So the actual improve phase of the continuous improvement. Yeah, so we had previously talked about how to analyze, how to or like define and analyze, and just kind of the whole picture around what has to happen before we can actually improve certain things. But before we go into it, we're gonna, just remind you, Lean by Nature, what is that? It's basically continuous improvement and Lean by Nature principles that are inspired and guided and somewhat improved maybe, or just changed by nature principles and the natural flow and natural cycles. Yes, and we have another participant joining. That's great. Hello and welcome. We were just doing the introduction. We're going to talk about the improvement phase today of the whole idea of Lean by Nature. But before we start into it, it's we need to come back together to the present and breathe deeply, and we can share a little bit about our gratitudes, what we're grateful today. Yeah, whoever joined, they can share their gratitude in the chat as well. And yeah, I'm grateful today for my tiny house that I'm sitting in at the moment. It's yeah, I kind of rebuilt it or improved it myself some years ago, and it's been my retreat space in a way, and I'm really glad I have it, and I can be here today, and yeah, just enjoy my space with you. So how about you, Aman? What are you grateful for?
Well, Elizabeth, I'm grateful for the universe responding to my inner thoughts, because I've been last few days struggling with the thought on how I should improve my food habits, how to control my the food intake. And the other day I just met the right person who that was just a coincidence, and he told me just the right things that I needed, to get that push towards this. So the universe responded beautifully, and that's what I'm grateful for.
That's great. Okay, yeah, I already shared a little bit about the recap. Basically, we're talking about phases of improvement. How can we actually improve something, a process, or something in our own lives, and how can we look at also the cycles of nature or nature's principles to do that. And Aman shared a really nice analogy with me the other day about, it's basically first we're going to define something, which is, okay, we're going to talk about improving a plant's life, for example. It's like a potted plant, we have something, and we decide, okay, well, we're talking about the plant that she can grow better or more luscious or bigger or whatever. Then we have to measure first, okay, well, how much, like, what are the needs of that plant? She needs water, and she needs soil, and she needs air and sunlight and everything. So we have that covered, that we're measuring it. And then we're observing it for, like, measuring for a longer period of time, looking at the data. Okay, well, we're analyzing it. How much water did she need? Was it too much or too little? Kind of looking at that data. And then now we're getting into the improvement part. So we have all the data. What do we actually have to do in order to improve the life of our plant? And yeah, so how do we do that, Aman?
Absolutely. Thank you, Elizabeth, for summarizing it the nature way. And I think I like to start the improvement or introducing the improvement by a phrase saying that improvement is not an act, it is a habit. Improvement is not an act, it is a habit. So you can never say that this is the time I want to start my improvement process and this is the time I will end my improvement process. So it has to be an ongoing activity. And I firmly believe that right from the first phase of the project improvement process that we talked about, the define phase, where we said that well begun is half done. If we define what we are going to do well, that is going to help us in the long way. I think that also is an improvement because we are committing to an improvement initiative. So our mentally we are now getting into the improvement flow. So that I would call also as an improvement. And then when we go from the define to the measure phase, when we said that whatever starts getting tracked and monitored starts getting improved, we said we need to capture data for 21 days. So that also is an improvement because now what we are doing is we are converting the commitment to improve to action. So we are actually converting the thought process of improvement to action. That also is an improvement. And at this point, I would like to share that if 100 people start the define phase where they commit that, okay, I want to improve, I would say that only 20 of them will reach the next phase of the measure, which is actually converting that commitment into action. 80% of the times, we are just stuck with the initial defining, and then we don't get the impetus to really get into the actioning phase. So I think even if you get into the actioning phase and start collecting data, that also is an improvement. And then when we say that we go from the measure phase to the analyze phase, which we discussed last time, we said that whatever data we have captured, we are going to put that in a picture. As they say, the picture is worth 1,000 words. So when we do the analysis, what we are actually doing is we are committing to further enhancing our commitment to improvement. So we committed first, we converted into action. Now we are analyzing how far we have come, what did good did we do, what else can we do. So this is the analysis we are doing right now. And I would like to say that out of those 20, at this stage, there are only 4 people who will really come to the analyze phase, and they will look at the retrospective data and they want to really improve. Otherwise, what happens is a lot of other priorities come into the picture, and we somehow the whole initiative fizzles out. So only 4 out of these 100 people who started will reach the phase of analyze. And this is the phase where old habits have to be demolished. Old habits that are keeping us down, they have to be changed. So this is that phase of the project. So that also I would say is an improvement. And then when we talk about the improve phase, which we are going to discuss today, I would say that only 1 out of those 4, that means out of 100, if 100 people started the improvement initiative, only one person will really come into the improve phase, where we say that now we are going to convert the reinforced commitment to an action. So we are actually further saying that improvement is not an act, it's an habit. So I would say that improvement is an ongoing process. It starts from the thought process of improving, converting that thought into action is also an improvement. Looking at retrospective data and analyzing is also an improvement. And then when you further reinforce your commitments and convert into actions, that also qualifies to be an improvement. So this is the whole, kind of improvement, kind of mindset, if you will. And now I would like to share a few points regarding the lean principles of improvement. When do we really say that improvement has happened? Is it only a few data points up and down, or should it be a more elaborate range? So for that, I would like to share a few slides. And Elizabeth, if you don't mind, can you pull up the deck and share that now?
Yeah, you should see it now.
So when we talk about, yeah, thank you, is coming up now. And when we talk about improvement, we really talk about an improvement over a period of time. It is not a kind of a, one data point or a few data points here and there. It has to be consistent. So I'd like to draw your attention back to the example that we shared last time, and share what an improvement really looks like. So if I may have you move to the next slide, please.
You should see it
Yes.
now.
So, yes, absolutely. So this is, if you remember, this is the training data that we saw last time. Month on month, on the x-axis we have the months, and on the y-axis we have the number of trainings that happened in an organization each month on month. And we plotted the data over 3 years. If you see the portion that is encircled, there is seems to be a sliding, upward slide here. And what I've done is I've kind of exploded this view. And if you go to the next slide, you will see the same view in a exploded format. So if you can go to the next slide, please. And by the way, this timeline is between Feb 18 and Jan 19. So the same data that you saw under the green circle, this is the same data that has been plotted. And if you look at this, month on month for the 11 or 12 months in a row, there has not been a single month that there was a dip in the number of trainings. So either it was constant or it was improving. So this, as per the lean methodology or the lean process, is an improvement. When you see the improvement over a period of time, that's what really matters when we talk about improvement, and making it a habit. So if I may have you move to the next slide, please. Yeah, so this is another snapshot view. This is like before after. So if you look at the same training data, by the way, in 2017 the average was 2 trainings per month. And if you look at the same training data for the month, for the year of 2018, it increased to 7 trainings in a month. That's the average for the whole year. So that's how we need to measure the improvement over a period of time, before, after, and see there has to be a sustainable jump over the previous time period. So this is another way to really say that yes, the improvement has happened, because we are actually capturing a significant amount of time. If I may have you move to the next slide, please. This is the same view captured between 2018 and 2019. And again, the average has improved from 7 to 15. So that also signifies an improvement over a time period. So it is like over 12 months, we calculate the average. So the improvement has to be consistent over a period of time. And that's demonstrated through, these graphs. And one thing, if you note, is that the before and after have to be the same tools. If you are making a bar chart in the before, you need to compare the after also with the bar chart. So it has to be a like and like comparison that you see. So if I may have you move to the next slide, please. This is the example of the personal life that we referred to last time. We talked about the weight tracking of a person who is, kind of going for exercise every day. And again, if you look at the 21-day trend, in between these two time periods, the weight reduced from, I think, marginally from 83 to 82.6, and that was again over a 21-day stretch. So that really tells us that again there has been some dip, and in this case, the target was to reduce weight. So I think that we are going in the right direction. So that's one way to signify improvement over a period of time. So this is a line chart, and the same line chart we have to plot before and after to look at what the improvement is. And if I may have you move to the last slide, I guess, on this one, or probably the last but one. This is the whole weight pattern over the 3 months time period that we shared last time. And if you look at this, data that is encircled with red, it is a sliding trend. And again, in this case, the target was to reduce weight. So what I've done is in the next slide, I have kind of exploded this view. So can you just, if you don't mind, can you just move to the next slide? And this red encircled, point that we saw in the last slide, this represents 6 days between 15th October to somewhere around 21st October. If you see consistently 6 days at a stretch, the weight has reduced, right? This signifies that the person who is really capturing this weight has done something significantly different than the previous days, because of which this consistent trend has been achieved. This cannot happen, just by, some little bit of improvement here and there. It has to be consistent, persistent improvement. And that is what I guess in lean principles as well is talked about when the improvement is referred to. It is more about consistent improvement, at least 6 data points continuously improving in a direction will signify that improvement has happened, or it has to be over an extended period of time that we talked about. So I think this was just a quick overview of what do we really mean when we talk about improvement. I am a firm believer that improvement doesn't have a end line. It doesn't have a deadline. It has to be an ongoing process. And we all have experienced this, whether it is weight management or it is improvement in our organizations. The moment we divert our attention from the improvement, again, the process starts slipping down. So one has to constantly look at improvement. That's why I said improvement is not an act, it's a habit. And I'd like to quickly kind of conclude the this part of the conversation. When we talk about improvement, there is a process called as Kaizen. It is a popular concept in organizations when they talk about small incremental improvements. I am a firm advocate of that. Instead of innovation or dramatic improvements, I think if we do small incremental improvements every day, slowly they build up to sustainable improvement. So just wanted to keep it brief, and back to you, Elizabeth, on
Well,
the
thank you
improvement
so much.
aspect.
Thank you so much. That was, yeah, a really, really nice, like, continuation of the picture that you painted last time. And when I prepared for our talk today, I was first wondering, okay, well, how is it actually happening in nature, that whole improvement? And I realized, well, in nature, the improvement is very much based on the needs. And so if we have a certain need, for example, to have certain amounts of food, then we need to improve, and we need to go through that whole process. And then we say, okay, well, do we have enough, or do we have to change something? And yeah, they do have to, okay, observe, yeah, now we had a period of time where some person had to go hungry, or didn't have any food or something like that. And then they, okay, well, we need to change. and their change is just instant. They have to move to a different territory, or change their hunting strategies. And for example, if they come to a new area, like especially humans, they had a lot of the food they have from trapping, not from hunting big animals, but from trapping smaller animals. And they had their trap lines. And so if you don't have a trap line, or even if you have a trap line, which is basically observing when does which animal go through which area, and set the trap there, because the animals are creatures of habit. We can kind of, okay, well, if they're coming by here, then more of them will come again. And but over time, their habits might change as well. So we'll have to observe, okay, well, though that trap line, has it gotten us enough food? Like previously we had enough food, but now we have to change. Now we maybe just have to observe, are there different spots where we can do that? Do we have to move completely? So they're basically, they have that need right away, because I think a lot of times the big question in our society today is, okay, well, we want to, I don't know, lose weight, or we want to be a little more efficient, but there is no really strong need. So the important thing I observed also with animals and with all kinds of natural processes is that they're always looking at the environment. And if we have an environment that forces us to change in a way, then we have to adapt, then we have to change. And that need to change is also helping us to actually go forward with it, which is a little bit a different angle to the whole topic. But yeah, it's just really strongly connected to that need. So so it's not so much, okay, well, can we actually see an improvement? It's more about, okay, well, do we have our needs met? Yes or no? And then we're improving, because otherwise we'll die. And do we have an improvement? It's like the constant, we have that need every day to check. And if it's not working, we just need to turn that knob, or do this differently, change location, change or whatever, and then see if that works. But basically, it's what I observed also in my wilderness training. As the preparation, we had the guidance, yeah, go running every day. But there was no real need for me to go running every day when I was at home. But when we were there in the other environment, all of a sudden I needed to change, needed to improve, because yeah, there was nothing else to do. I needed to run everywhere. I needed to at least walk everywhere, because the environment was in a way supportive also to my improvement process. And that was a big factor for me to see, okay, yeah, it's seeing, okay, the environment helps me to improve my own like aspects. And what else did I think of so really intelligently? Yeah, and also everybody, like there is a constant improvement in nature, where, for example, a plant, even if they see, okay, well, I'm growing nicely here, and I'm building seeds and fruit and everything, they're constantly looking for, okay, well, how can we survive in general, sending out seeds somewhere, and somewhere it's growing and somewhere it isn't. And if that seed of a tree is in a location that's really rough, then they just have to build like a stronger or more adaptive stem or something like that. So it's always the adaptation to the environment again. It's like, where am I? What can I change? And continue with that. And yeah, also that knowledge is passed down through the generations. So yeah, there are some like clans or packs or any kind of animals where they have a different location where they're staying in for the summer and for the winter. They know exactly, okay, well, that's perfect for the summer, but in winter we have to move. But they know, again, next year in summer we can go back. And that kind of knowledge about hunting, about where they're staying, that's passed down as well, but it has to improve as well because the environment changes all the time. So yeah, that's from the nature aspect of things. And I don't know if you have some more thoughts on that before we go to possible questions.
Absolutely, Elizabeth. I think you bring in a good point. I mean, the pain area should initiate. That's one reason why an improvement is triggered. So if an organization is struggling with, and that's the first call that we have. If you remember, we talked about if a company is struggling with productivity, or they have a quality issues, or they are a cost, not cost effective, or their deliveries are delayed. So there has to be a pain area, and once they identify which is the prominent pain area, that will trigger the whole improvement process. So it has to be prioritized based on which pain is hurts the most. So I think that ties in very closely to, yeah, the point that you made in nature. It's not about, hey, I want to improve just, by the way, but it is more driven by need. And if you are a hunter, as you rightly said, if you are not closely following the changing habits of the animals, then you might be the victim rather than the hunter. So it is a precarious situation. The hunter has to be alert, that if he's not alert about the signs and he's not constantly improving on his skills, I think, as you rightly mentioned, then he's not likely to meet his objective. So I think the same happens in organization. Uh, Either they can have a reactive approach to improvement, where they say that there is a pain area and now I want to improve, or they can have a proactive approach. If they are the leader, let's say they are the leader in their industry, then they can think of possible competition coming in and taking their position which they are having at right now. So that will be a perceived kind of threat, and they want to continuously improve. So that is really for those leaders in the industry. For
Mm.
them, it could be a proactive approach, but for others, it's more reactive because they're already struggling with so many issues that they want to improve upon. So that's my two thoughts on based on what you shared, Elizabeth.
Yeah, thank you. And um, yeah, what I forgot to mention, and it's not directly tied to the improvement process, but like how to improve. But it's what is important also is to look at the feedback with every action that you take. Like, okay, before we have analyzed and everything, and we have an idea of, okay, that's what we're gonna change. But still, like every small change that's done, we have to look at the feedback. Okay, well, what did that change actually do? Because in the beginning we have like an idea of what it's gonna do, but yeah, how can we see that it's actually doing it? And yeah, also looking, okay, well, if we're happy about the change, then we're going to continue. And it's also about excitement, like on the personal level. If we have the feedback and we're excited about it, then that's going to help us continue as well.
Absolutely, Elizabeth. We are happy about it, and the second thing is the data. And if you see the trend that I shared, if we are really doing good, and if we are getting good feedback, as you said, the data will reflect. The data will show that the improvement is happening. So that's
Yeah.
why I think that could be another friend we can always look up to tell us that the feedback is in the right direction.
Yeah. Great. So do you have a bit of an outlook on what we're going to talk next time?
Yes, a quick, since we have a few minutes, I guess, the last but not the least phase in this whole approach is the control phase. Now, we have really reached a level where we have changed the habits. We have kind of got rid of old habits that are keeping us down. We have inculcated new habits, new processes have been deployed. So, the next call we're going to talk about how to set up these processes so that we don't revert to the original position. We don't go back to where we started. It should not be a vicious circle of improvement and then going back. So what steps can we take to make sure that we sustain and maintain the level of improvement that we have been able to get? So that's what we're going to talk about in the next call.
That sounds great. And then with that, we're also finishing up the first part of our series right before Christmas and before the end of the year, and already giving you a short outlook on we're gonna flip it around for next year in January, starting with looking at first at nature principles and cycles, and then having Aman looking at it from the lean perspective. And we're going to see what comes out of that. And yeah, so thank you so much for joining, everybody, or who's watching it in the replay. Yeah, if you happen to come across that video by accident, or someone showed it to you and you haven't signed up for a newsletter information list yet, we're going to put the link to subscribe in the comments, so you will get information about that for the next call, like getting the link and getting reminders and getting updates on whatever else is happening. And with that, I want to thank you again and wish you a good next 2 weeks until we hopefully see you again.
Absolutely. See you again.
Goodbye.